as for the future on this channel, I'm gonna do my best to get back into live streaming. Believe it or not, I'm gonna be moving soon. When I do end up moving, I'm gonna 100% make a video about the acoustic treatment in my room. It'll be like a comparison, with and without the acoustic treatment, the new room and the old room. I'll be sure to do it right too, so you guys can hear exactly what the acoustic treatment is doing. Look for that in late September. So today's video is quite overdue, but we're going to be talking about acoustics, how they influence a room, and a little bit of an A-B comparison between my old and new rooms. So for those of you who don't know, last year I moved, and I thought it would be fun to do a comparison of my rooms with and without acoustic treatment. What you're about to see is a series of videos of my setups, combined with audio clips that correspond to the setup being shown. All of the clips were recorded with my MA200. I also speak at various distances to the mic, and you'll hear me describe those. When I back away from the mic is when you're definitely going to hear a difference. And I'll also have some claps and a couple guitar recordings as well. Now I don't pretend to have the best acoustic treatment in the world, but what you hear in this video should be proof that something is better than nothing. At the end of this video, I'll talk more about the layout and how you should utilize it. I'll also tell you what treatment is the most important to get. So let's start off with my old room with acoustic treatment. This is a test of my old room with all the acoustic foam on the walls. I'm currently about 6 inches from the microphone, and now I'm about 2 feet from the microphone, and now I'm about 4 feet from the microphone. This is a test of my old room with no acoustic foam on the walls. I'm currently about 6 inches away from the microphone. And now I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone. And now I'm about 4 feet away from the microphone. Alright, I promise my hands were like 4 inches away from the mic on that clap. This is a test of my new room with no acoustic foam on the walls. I'm currently about 6 inches away from the microphone. Now I'm about 2 feet from the microphone, and now I'm about 4 feet from the microphone. This is a test of my new room with acoustic foam on the walls. I'm currently about 6 inches away from the microphone. Now I'm about 2 feet from the microphone, and now I'm about 4 feet from the microphone. Now I think it's pretty important to consider the following. As I said before, I don't really have the best acoustic treatment. I'm sure that you saw looking on the walls that my setup is pretty much a bunch of foam panels and some blankets, with the occasional sleeping bag or two. And if you look even closer, you'll see that most of the wedges are only 1 inch thick. Now that's a problem because, as any trained acoustician will tell you, whenever you're trying to absorb sound waves for acoustic treatment, you need to follow what's known as the quarter-length rule. Basically, all the sound that we know of is consistent of sine waves. Yeah, those things you studied in trigonometry. Really all you're hearing when you hear a C note is a certain amount of sine waves per second. Now of course every sound has harmonics, or more technically overtones, which basically means more sine waves on top of the main sine waves, but the main sine waves, known as the fundamentals, are usually the lowest in frequency, which means that they're going to be longer. So we're going to ignore the harmonics for this discussion, because if something can absorb the longest wave, then it could absorb all of the shorter waves. Now, the quarter length rule is actually pretty simple. Basically, the treatment should be at least a quarter of the length of the lowest sound wave that you want to absorb, which, like we just said, is usually the fundamental. So if the wavelength of the fundamental was 8 inches long, you'd want a 2-inch thick wedge to absorb it properly. But this is where the problem starts to rear its ugly head, because do you know how long these frequencies are in real life? Let's consider a 300 Hz wave. Now keep in mind that most of the pitches that I'm hitting while talking to you are way below 300 Hz. Alright, so this website ought to give us a good estimate. Let's go ahead and put in 300. 45 inches? 45 inches? Almost 4 feet? That means that we would need wedges about a foot deep to properly absorb all of that. And it gets worse. The wavelength for 20 Hz is about 56.5 feet. Therefore, if we want to be able to properly absorb all frequencies that the human ear can hear, we're going to need acoustic foam that is thicker than most rooms are long. This is highly inconvenient. Now let's return to talking about my own setup. Do I have the necessary materials to follow the quarter length rule? Yeah, not really. And yet, you can obviously hear a difference with and without the treatment. It's not like it's doing nothing. Just listen to this quick back-to-back comparison. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Now, I did my best to record all of those the exact same way. The exact same length from the microphone, about 2 to 3 inches. Exact same microphone, set up in the exact same way, on the exact same stand, with the exact same pop filters, the exact same cable, run into the exact same interface, even the exact same channel on the interface. But even though I recorded them in the exact same way, the difference between without the treatment and with it is almost night and day. I've done a few things to try and maximize the treatment that I have. Some of them you should definitely apply to your own studio setup. Others I'm more iffy on, but I've heard they work. So the things you should definitely do are: number 1, buy bass traps first and put them in the 3D corners. I never heard as much of a difference in my room as before I put the traps up and after I put the traps up. Keep in mind that these aren't technically trapping bass frequencies, but not all foam is created equal, and this is specially designed foam by RLX to trap the bass frequencies, even though the traps are barely like a foot thick. So by the quarter length rule, they should only be able to absorb down to about 250 Hz, right? Well, yes and no. The subject of bass trapping is pretty complicated. Look in the description to see an article about the quarter length rule, because like I said, you'd need a crazy thick amount of absorption foam to fully absorb all of the range of human hearing. But bass traps, as you might expect, due to the quarter length rule, actually absorb more than just the frequencies they were designed to. They absorb down to a certain low frequency, and then they can also absorb all the frequencies above it too. That's why they make the most difference. Now, as you might expect, they do cost the most, but those are the ones that you gotta get first. Hey, I promised my advice, and there it is. You basically get what you pay for. And here you're getting acoustic treatment that can absorb about 4 times the amount that normal panels can. Lastly, about the 3D corner thing, that's basically where the 3 vertices of the wall meet. Here's a picture. As you can see, the bass traps fit perfectly. The second thing you want to do is make sure that no 2 parallel spaces on the side walls are covered. Basically, when you do get wedge panels or whatever panels you get, and you put a panel in a certain square on one wall, the space coinciding with it on the other wall should be blank. If you do it right and you have enough panels, they should resemble 2 checkerboards. Now, believe it or not, the goal is not complete and total absorption. We're not trying to absorb all of the reverb and suck all of the life out of the room. Usually anyways. Maybe for vocals, but usually not for instruments because they need some room to kind of breathe in the sound of the room. Sonically speaking, vocals are pretty simple, but that's a topic for another video. Now, this third tactic that I'm going to talk about is not really mainstream, but I've heard from a couple sources that if you put blankets over your panels, their frequency trapping abilities will be increased. Just looking at my videos, you could probably tell that I have a lot of obstacles to work around in this room. The huge window that takes up about half of the wall, the sliding closet doors meaning that I can only coat half of them. Add to that the fact that it's a pretty small room, and bigger is usually better in acoustics, and well, I need all the absorption I can get. So yeah, I put blankets over some of my panels. Sure, you can try it if you want. I'm just saying that it might work and it might not, but I think it makes my setup look neater, so I kept them. I'm sorry, guys. Look, I'm sorry, guys. This video started off as like a comparison test idea, and then I just sort of thought maybe I'd talk for a couple minutes about acoustics, and now I realize that's taken up about half of the video. Let me just conclude with this. The biggest tip I can give regarding acoustic treatment is you gotta get some. You've obviously seen in this video that even in the worst rooms, even when you're not able to deploy the panels to their maximum efficiency, having some treatment up on the walls definitely helps. This is by no means the most comprehensive video on acoustics. I didn't get to mention non-foam panels, tuned bass traps, or perhaps most notable of all, diffusers. But that's because I haven't gotten any yet. This was really just a comparison, and I just decided to expound upon the comparison. But my last tip is this: always spend more money on your acoustic treatment than you do on the microphone. Within reason, of course. Alright, let's do a quick channel update. So, this video was meant to come out a long time ago, but anyways, it's done now. I've just been enjoying producing so much, and yeah, maybe I need to start uploading some of the things that I've been working on. First I need to work on finishing them. That's what the live streams were meant to be for, and I haven't been live streaming that much. So yeah, the video that I showed at the beginning of this video, it did not age very well at all. I'm really just sitting here at my laptop, listening to Mother 3 soundtrack while I'm recording this narration, honestly just hoping that I've done enough for this video. I know it's been a long time since I've just kind of sat down and talked just myself. I hope you have been enjoying the podcast episodes though, because as long as there's still music and audio things to talk about, we're going to plan to keep doing those episodes. And I guess that's about it for this video, so yeah, that's it. Sayonara, guys. Good luck on your acoustics, and here's a little bit more guitar.